I've always enjoyed helping people. It's just part of my personality. You get to see someone else's success come to fruition, and that brings a lot of joy. And that's something that we've done from the beginning, honestly, with our shop. We have someone that's been with us since the beginning. They started with having almost no knowledge. It's always funny to reflect back on, hey, you remember when you started, like, you didn't even know how to take a drain plug out. It's comical, but it's also shows you the growth that they've had over the last 5 years. It's very rewarding. So just working side by side with someone and really teaching them the way that we want to do things is part of how our company was built.
All right. Thank you again, everyone, for being here on another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. Today, we have another amazing guest in Kyle Meadows out of Waterford Township, Michigan. He has two amazing locations there, nearly about 20 bays combined, and seeing immense success there. But really, again, Kyle, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. Kyle, if you wouldn't mind just starting off sharing a little bit about your story in terms of how you got started in this industry and kind of building locations from there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to start off with a note that it's a little uncomfortable for me to talk about myself. And we talked a little bit about this already, is I do feel like sharing your story should have a purpose to helping people. So that was one of my main drivers for coming on the show, just to try to give back and help people a little bit. A little bit about myself is I started in automotive repair. We opened our shop in 2017. That is kind of the beginning of the business process for me. But as far as automotive goes, I started back in high school, 2008. Actually, even earlier than that, 2007 is when I really started to work on cars. Had a 1984 Monte Carlo, the first car. So
Nice.
my stepdad actually helped me do a rebuild on the engine, and this was prior to any real schooling. That was a journey into automotive. So a lot of satisfaction there with just fixing things that are broken. And that's part of my personality, is just trying to help fix things. And part of the progression that we've had is now becoming to fix people more than cars.
Love that.
That's really where we're headed now. And so anyways, we opened in 2017 the repair shop after doing a lot of stuff on my own, not really officially a business or anything like that, just friends and family, helping people out, working mobile, whatever it took to get the job done. 2017 was by myself, and we had hired some help, more or less part-time help throughout that. Towards the end of the year, we had our first employee that we actually hired. That year, we did about 230,000 in revenue, just as like a reference point of where we started. No money in the bank. It was just like well, we can work hard and figure it out as we go type of thing. No financing or anything like that. And
Yep.
it was definitely a stressful year. Got ourselves into some serious trouble. And thankfully, there was a lot of people helping on Facebook at that time, just giving advice and things like that really helped us get course corrected throughout that end of that year. So 2017 is the year that I joined into a coaching company. And that really was a catalyst for us basically surviving. And now I like to think we do okay. We're not done by any means. We have some big goals, but it's a whole different world now. 6 years down the road, it's really crazy to see where we're at. But yeah, last year we opened our second location, and we have a staff of 22 people right now.
Wow.
So we're growing pretty fast. I think over the last few years, we've had double to 50% growth pretty much every year consistently. So we have a really exciting growing team, really happy with where things are at with them, and really good solid team that we can trust.
Yeah, and that's so crucial in terms of any business you're doing, but especially within the shop, and just having a team
Yeah.
that you can trust. So you mentioned now you have 22 staff between the two locations, which is really amazing. Congratulations on having that many people
A
on
lot
the
of
team.
people.
Yeah, but what is the current breakdown in terms of the roles and what they're doing, whether it be writers to behind back end, things like that?
Yeah, so this year we've got two managers, one for each location. We have a service writer at the second location, and then we have three technicians, a general service, and then like a shuttle driver at that location.
Okay.
His name is Delbert, and he's 76 years old, I believe, 76 or 77.
Wow.
He stayed at that shop when we purchased it, and I'll tell you what, that guy is a blessing. He is the hardest working person that I've seen in a long time, especially at that age. So that's been really cool to have him as part of our team there. It kind of built that culture almost around just being a really hard worker and a really good attitude all the time. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then the first location obviously has the manager in place. We have 2 service advisors, parts manager, 7 technicians, a general service technician right now. So we have a pretty full boat over there. So,
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like quite
yeah.
the
And last year we also added full-time bookkeeper, so we have that as well. So that's been a blessing for me. I'm not a big data entry person, and it was very difficult to have that connection with outsource company. It's good, like we got the job done.
yeah.
Having someone in-house has been a game changer for us as far as like the level of detail we're able to get to with our books. So
Yeah, and then you can make like decisions on the fly because you're
yeah,
getting real time like answers in terms
yeah,
of like the financials. So yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations again on getting to this point. But again, I know you mentioned the beginning was about fixing cars, so now it's turned into more of fixing people and helping people. And so a big purpose of our conversation today was finding your purpose in business. And so I know it feels like you have found your purpose in terms of fixing people and or just helping the growth path there. But what would you say now in terms of your guys' process of when someone comes on board in that growth path? How did you go about creating that? What does it look like? Say, maybe we'll start with a tech or whatever, wherever you want to start. Let's
sure.
start in that position there.
Yeah, so for me, I've always enjoyed helping people. It's just part of my personality. You get to see someone else's success come to fruition, and that brings a lot of joy. And that's something that we've done from the beginning, honestly, with our shop. There's people that have brilliant processes for this. I'm not really a process oriented person. Most people, especially my wife, will tell you that. So
Mine
She's
too.
much more detailed and process driven, not. So we don't have anything really dialed in, to be honest. It's just
Mhm.
part of our company culture at this point. But like when we first opened, that's what I had to do. It's not always the easiest to recruit top level people. And when you're first starting out, first, like you don't have the money to pay them. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then like your super high level people don't always want to work in a place that's not on the same level. As you get better, then you would start to attract better people. But even then, that comes with challenges. Really, just developing people from the beginning. We have our longest standing employee right now started with us in 2018. So like summer of 2018. We have someone that's been with us longer or since the beginning, but they had a break in their employment. But they started with having almost no knowledge. I always joke with him because he came in and like the first oil change, he had the ratchet set on Titan when he was trying to take a drain plug out. It's always funny to reflect back on, hey, you remember when you started like you didn't even know how to take a drain plug out. It's comical, but it's also shows you the growth that they've had over the last 5 years. It's very rewarding. So just working side by side with someone and really teaching them the way that we want to do things is part of how our company was built. Most of our technicians have been people that started at what we call as a general service. So they do shuttle driving, cleaning cars, quality checks, work your way into oil changes. So that's it's just a huge part of our company culture is bringing people up from what we call the bottom. I want to call that, but
Yeah.
it's a good start point. So
Yeah. So in terms of then like the training that they go through, or is that something that like you do on the side with them, or you have someone doing on the side with them, or are they just slowly but surely like working with one of the techs and pairing with them as almost like an apprenticeship? Like, how does that sort of look?
yeah, so in the beginning it was them working side by side with me because I worked in the shop and that was
Yeah.
like up until we had our big shop, our first location now we had moved. Like we didn't have a shop foreman or anything, and that was like my role, just teaching, guiding, training. And they have an apprentice license that they can get, and then that allows them to work underneath somebody else.
Okay.
So that was the process. And then now we have a shop foreman at our first location, and that's his role. So they work underneath him with guidance, and we do a lot of the training in-house. And that's worked out very well because you're able to not only train technical, but also processes like how
Yeah.
to inspect a car properly, how to build an estimate right, and here's the theory and operation of this system. And rather than just someone preaching how to fix it. So we try to develop their critical thinking skills also is a big
Mhm.
part of that. And daily it's just a development thing, and that's one important thing to note. Like in that role you have to constantly be improving yourself too, because you're going to have people that are nipping on your heels to move up the ladder.
Yeah,
And that's a lot of what drives our expansion, is to provide opportunity for people as they come up. So
for sure. No, I love that, because I think honestly, for me, I think the best way to feel like you truly know or master something is when you need to teach someone else how to do it. Because if you never have to
absolutely.
teach anyone how to do it, you just think the way that you do things is the best way to do
Yeah.
things. And so it's like, no one knows any better than me, deal. But like when you start teaching, especially someone that is so new and fresh, it's like you have to think like very basically of, okay, wait, what are the steps that you do to do A, B, C to make sure that it is done? I think that there's a lot of power in making then someone a teacher, especially when it's like someone on your team. That just helps. It helps both people grow.
Yeah.
So I love that. So, but
I would agree with that for sure. It's
yeah,
definitely part of the catalyst that keeps us growing, is like constantly having to teach what we're doing. And
yeah.
there's no doubt about that.
Love that. So I think the next thing then I think that I've heard a lot of is, Kyle, how do you have the patience? Like, how long are we talking about here when it's someone new is coming on to them being ready? So what do you typically see and envision in terms of that time frame?
That's something that's going to be different with everybody that comes on. It's interesting. So we have some people that just get it immediately. They're more naturally going to figure it out and move up faster. Typically, it's a hard thing for us because we're constantly having to cycle people through. So that is one of the struggles, is like when you get someone that gets it, you don't want to keep them held down in that sort of entry level position for a long time.
Mm.
You'll limit their growth by basically saying, no, we're not ready for you. No, we're not ready for you. And they'll get bored. And that's when people get like depressed, or they want to go work somewhere else because they just feel stuck with where they're at.
Yeah.
So that, like I said, that's a big part of our growth, is because of that. It pushes me to go, all right, we need to provide opportunity here. So what are we going to do? We move to a bigger location. Okay, that gives us capacity. So we bring on a few more people, grow the business. Now we're getting close to capacity at our first location, and we got people chomping at the bit. Hey, I think I could be a really good manager for you. I'm bored. I love the vision of where we're going. What are you going to do? It's like, all right, I guess it's time to open a second location.
Uh,
And that it keeps me hungry to keep learning, because you get to a point where you get comfortable and we make enough money, but it's not about the money at this point. It's like, all right, we need to keep going for what our people want to do and develop them. And it's amazing to be able to see where you could take someone that really doesn't have a skilled trade and teach them how to do it, and they are willing to take feedback and learn. And like, you take someone that's making 35, 40,000 a year to making 80, 90,000, over 100 sometimes,
yeah.
that feeling is very gratifying, because you're literally changing someone's life at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we have multiple people that we've been able to help, and I don't take a lot of the credit for that. Like, they put the work in, but it feels really good to be a part of that and develop them.
Absolutely. Yes, it is a lot. The onus is a lot on the worker themselves and the drive that they have. But you have created a platform that they are able to then reap the benefits and success. So I think don't downsell yourself. I think you are
I mean,
doing
everybody would agree
it.
with that, that works for us. I think like
Yeah.
we really try to provide a place where they're comfortable to grow and make mistakes. Man, you said patience. Luckily, I'm a pretty patient person overall. We've had a lot of stuff. Like, you just have to be willing to accept the fact that they're not going to be perfect. And sure, you might know a better way to do it, but the way you figured out your better way is by making mistakes and then owning the mistake, not trying to hide behind it or anything like that, and just moving on, finding a better way to do it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely cost us a lot of time and a lot of money doing that development. And we try to guide it. Obviously, we don't want them to make mistakes that are going to be detrimental to the business. But overall, people just accept that we're human and we do make mistakes, as long as we stand behind it and make
Mm.
it right. And that's something that our whole team is part of. If you screw something up, I don't want you to hide it. Just bring it to our attention and we'll make it right. You're not in trouble.
I love that. I think that makes a good leader for sure. Because right now I'm reading the Extreme Ownership book by Jocko Willink. I don't know if you've heard of
Yes.
it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. Like, where it's just, it doesn't matter if you're the leader. It doesn't matter if you had no involvement in what took place. You just own it. It's like it was
Yep.
your fault. You didn't train them right, or whatever it may be. You find a way to make it your fault and instead of theirs, and it just goes a long way with just building that culture. So
Yeah.
I love what you are doing there. But So I know we are talking a little bit about patience, but I know for sure people still have a time frame, or like, is there like a mistakes, like you have 3 strikes or whatever it is? Is there any sort, I guess, first off, what would you say is the average time frame from when someone's a GS, general service person, to then facing that first level of promotion? What would you say is that average time frame that you've seen within your shop?
Typically about a year.
Yep.
But like I said, some people it's been as fast as 3 months where we're like, oh crap, like you got it figured out. We need to get you. And that's something where you say, all right, I just need a little bit to find your replacement essentially to get you up to this next level.
Yep.
And it's a slow process. So like we have a process where you're paid commission on top of your hourly pay. So we always try to structure it so that the pay plan makes it so that the employee wins as well as the shop. So when you're not comfortable working on cars, I don't want you on a heavy commission plan because you're going to feel the pressure to perform, and that's going to sacrifice your ability to learn and do a quality job. So we always start them off on just a base hourly. It's entry level, so it's not going to be like the best paying, but
Yeah.
and then we'll transition them to a hybrid where you get commission and hourly. That way you can just see direct relation to the work that you put in results in a better paycheck, right?
Yep.
And then from there, we start to transition more to commission heavy pay plans. I would say a year, though, as far as timeline, is generally about where people end up, where they go from not knowing anything to being able to do brakes and suspension, like basic maintenance items.
Yep.
It's about average.
Oh, okay, perfect. And then now as yes, it's an uncomfortable topic, but like in terms of mistakes, and obviously everyone makes mistakes, and so you have to have a runway for people to do that. But sometimes when mistakes happen too frequently and often, the runway unfortunately runs out. But what would you say, what kind of wiggle room do you allow? Are you one that allows a really long runway and you're just really patient with them? Or I guess, what does that look like?
Yeah, we don't really have any set, like I said, I'm not a procedure guy.
Yep.
But you have to have course correction. So that's where you have your process for talking to somebody verbally. And then if it's a repeat issue, like if you have 2, 3 times where you're having the same problem and you're not making an effort to fix it, then you get a formal write-up process for that is really case by case. You just have to really guide, like, what's the severity of the situation? Like someone leaves a wheel loose. All right, we might give you one on that. If you do that 2, 3, 4 times, then there's obviously an issue that you're not going to overcome, which just doesn't really happen for us. Like in that specific instance, it's, hey, we found out these lug nuts were left loose. You got to hand torque every single wheel, make sure the corrosion's cleaned off because we're in Michigan, so we get a lot of corrosion. So it's just finding the correction factor. And then also you have someone that's guiding them. So that does keep the mistakes to a pretty small amount. But it really just depends on the severity, obviously. And if they own it, it makes it a lot easier to manage the situation because then typically they're going to fix it. If they're trying to hide behind it and say, oh, it's not I didn't do that, blah, 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 then it's a little bit more difficult because they're not receptive to actually fixing the problem. When that situation happens, the patience goes down a lot. But we try to be patient with them because it's hard to learn a new skill, and especially something as complex as automotive repair. Like it's difficult and it can be overwhelming when you're just starting out for sure.
Absolutely. And the name of the industry, you're fixing a car in a sense. So like if you don't own fixing something, you're most likely not cut out for it. Yeah. So I do. Yes, you don't have any processes, but you do in a sense. They're just not written down. But
I've been trying to tighten that up. So it's something that I've always just used my gut for. And to be quite honest, I'm probably a little bit too lenient on that side of things. As we're growing, we are starting to tighten up some of those processes and have actual guidelines because your gut can only take you so far. You have to sometimes take the emotion out of it and look at the data. So we strive to have a 3% or less comeback rate, which honestly, it sounds like a lot. It's really not. As far as like total cars coming back, not stuff that we specifically screwed up, but for example, check engine light comes on again, like we count that as a comeback. We don't like having repeat customer concerns.
How long a window do you give for it to be considered a comeback?
Usually 30 days.
30 days, okay.
Good window, yeah. And have workmanship stuff that comes up after that. But part of that is we've had our foreman actually doing the review of the car. So we get like an unbiased opinion of what actually happened. Because sometimes people will bend the truth, right? If they think they can get away with having a car come back and then, oh, it's not my fault. we need another opinion to confirm that. So
For sure. No, I like that a lot in terms of obviously on the marketing end of things are like it's not bad to have the person come back because it's a returning customer in a sense. But yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Like it's good knowing that time frame, 30 days. And if it's not like they came back for decline recommended work. It's
Yeah,
sad.
so this would be like a negative thing. A car comes
Exactly.
back with an issue that we were supposed to fix or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously the less the better. We like zero, but
Yeah.
nobody's perfect.
Yep. Nope. For
And a
sure.
lot of this does fall on our foreman. So like our foreman's really his role is crucial for the shop because one, he's doing a lot of the heavier diagnostic work and training people on how to do that, as well as him kind of being controlling production. So he knows the skill sets of all the technicians very well. So he helps with the dispatch portion to kind of ability, not availability is something that we like to talk about.
Yeah.
So who's the first up? That may not be the right person for that job.
For sure. Interesting. Okay. In terms of now, you've scaled pretty quickly just based on like a new location. Obviously, you need now a bunch of new people to then make sure that there's enough to fill at the given shop. So, how did
Yes.
you go about recruiting and finding these people? Did you already have a bench that was ready to go? Did you reach out on different social platforms? Like, what did that look like for you?
So I'll be honest, most of our recruiting efforts have been referrals from people that work for us already.
Nice.
Those have been some of our better hires typically.
Yep.
And we've made some bad hires too. I think everybody does. It doesn't mean they're bad people. They just aren't a good fit for our company. We've gotten a lot better as we've grown about making that decision pretty quickly. And it just, the culture really protects the shop right now. It's a great feeling because everybody actually cares about our reputation and they don't want to let the BS slide through.
Yeah.
But recruiting, we definitely tried when we went to the second location, we overstaffed our first location pretty heavily in anticipation that was going to happen.
Okay.
We definitely put a little bit of a tax on the financials of the first shop because that process really dragged out a lot longer than we thought it was going to as far as negotiations go and environmental testing and all that stuff.
Yep.
It was like an 8 or 9 month process. We were overstaffed for 4 or 5 months, which we actually grew into that to some, which we planned on growing a little bit to
Yeah.
have extra people. But so, yeah, I think as far as that goes, and then recruiting, that's something I always do, just constantly trying to run ads, search resumes, open up connections with people. So like I said, most of our hiring comes from referrals from current technicians that know people that would be a good fit. We really try to focus on your personality first.
Yep.
So are you a good person? Are you going to fit in with our shop? And then ability obviously has to be there too. So unfortunate part of that is sometimes you get people that you really as a person, but they just don't quite cut it for the job. That's a tough decision to make, but we do have to protect the shop too because it supports a lot of other families. So
Yeah. No, for sure. It's a fine line where it's just you want to hire everyone that are like they're friends together, but at the same time you're running a business. So it's
yeah.
not a charity where it's just like we're taking on everyone to help them all out. Like no,
Mhm.
yes, we want to help them, but to a certain no, that's great. But it sounds like to me that you have a really strong culture. In order for employees to be constantly recommending, thus you getting referrals, that's kind of the main base of your system of employees. And so I guess if you were to ask an employee to define the culture there, what do you think they would say at your shop?
Culture is such a tough thing as it gets a buzzword now,
Yeah.
but it is super important for the company. That's a good question. We do talk from time to time about stuff like this, and I guess I've never actually asked them to define our culture. We definitely work hard. We like to have fun, and we communicate fairly well. Like we're always improving. My shops are definitely far from perfect. I can tell you
Yeah.
100% that. I will own that. But we try to make the best of it, and um, everybody works really hard. So the culture, I think, is just working hard, making sure we're doing a good job, making sure that the customers are taken care of. Like that's number one priority. We did a meeting at the end of the year this year, and that was one of the things we touched on was the company values as a group. So what was interesting about that conversation is nobody ever said anything about like the money as far as our values. Like they know that we're here to deliver a good service and take care of the customer. I actually have the notes right here. So the company values were, and this was not me, this was me asking them what they think the values of our company are as a group. First one was to fix the car right. And then we have honesty, satisfaction, under promise, over deliver, quality, attitude, community involvement, and communication. And that was collectively as a group what we've listed off. I thought that was really cool because no one was like, be profitable, do the most sales we can ever do. And that's an easy trap to fall into as a business too. I feel like if you forget your main reason is to fix the car and take care of the customer, and the whole thing falls apart.
For sure. Yeah. It easily could have been. So it's good to see if like they're all on just base pay where it's okay that the idea of like money and factoring into the business doesn't really directly correlate to them. So it's like, oh, yes, it's not important. But obviously you have people on healthy commissions and things like that. So they could easily correlate to them and be an answer. So I love that is their answers around fixing, helping the customer. You've done a great job on in terms of that.
Hopefully.
That's a natural answer that they give. But then so in terms of just then cultivating that, keeping things fun and loose, are there activities that you guys do as a team, or are there different ways that they're like, yes, this is the best place to be? There should be like perks, I guess, that you do.
Yeah, we really try to take care of our people, and it gets harder as we get bigger. So that's one thing. Like, it's really hard for us right now to navigate and organize an event like we used to do with 4 people versus now having to we did Christmas this year, and I think it was 52 people with family and some kids that came. But yeah, we try to do company events, and we have been getting better about trying to do family friendly stuff because that's really important to me too. You got to remember who you're serving, and it's not just your employee, it's their family also.
Yep.
And I think bringing them into the Christmas party was really good this year. We try to do at least one a year, but typically 2. Last year was challenging. We had a lot of growth happening with the new shop. We didn't get a chance to really do anything official as far as like a company event, and I feel bad about that. But it's easy to get sucked into the weeds when you're launching a new location.
Yeah.
But we try to do team building stuff. Like last year for our Christmas, we did in 21, we rented a party bus, and then we went to go do they have a place in Michigan here that's called Michigan, and it's like realistic laser tag. Like they give you an M16 and like you got to run in the building. Like, it's really cool. So we took the whole team to do that, and that was really fun. We do stuff like Top Golf we've done for our Christmas party before. Honestly, just spending time together outside of work is huge because we're really like a family, and we're trying to keep that environment as we grow. Like I said, it's had its challenges with us getting busy and everybody has plans, but we're trying to get better about structuring stuff like that because it is really important, and it's part of what helped us get to where we're at. So we don't want to forget about it as we grow.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hopefully people are still listening as we go along here. And I'm sure some of them are envious of like the culture that you've created. And man, this guy just gets referrals for his people. And I spend thousands of dollars on Indeed and things like that. So to those people that like are struggling to figure out the identity of their shop and figure out a good culture to make people happy, what would be your suggestion to start? How they like remake what they've created so far?
That's a great question. I would say the best place to start is yourself. You have to really dive in and understand yourself and why you do things. One thing I always tell people that I talk to is like the start of where we became successful. I'm a big believer in that success is never a process. Like to feel successful is when you know that you're doing the best you can be. And when you're not, that's when you're not going to feel successful. It's a different picture for everybody, but if you're not living to your full potential, you're never going to feel successful, regardless of where you're at financially. You have to start by becoming more self-aware of yourself and really developing your skills and becoming a better person and leader. I think that's what's helped us get the referrals because we're creating a place that people typically just enjoy to be at work. So that all really started, like the progress with our company is really when I started to fix myself and really dive my personality traits, my strengths, my weaknesses. What started that path for me is a tool called the Enneagram. So I really highly recommend people to dive into that. There's an app that you can download, and it's basically like a personality test. So I'm really big on that type of stuff, just really taking these tests and trying to dive into my own personality and why I do the things that I do, what drives me, what motivates me. And one of those things is helping people. So if you do the Enneagram, they have 9 sections that basically all personalities fall into. And there's a great book on that too. The guy's name is Ian. It'll have to come back to me. I think The Road Back to You is the name of the book, where it actually teaches a little bit about the Enneagram. Heard him at a speaker at a conference one time, and I think that was like pivotal point for trying to go into the self-awareness journey, which is never ending. I feel like it definitely evolves as time goes on. That for me, I'm like, they call it a 3 or a performer. So I get a lot of satisfaction by winning, whatever you want to call that. And then the second side of it is it's called a wing. And the wing is a number 2 for me, which is a helper. I love being a performer that's helping people. The more I get people to improve and win themselves, the better it makes me feel, which may or may not be a good thing. I don't know, but it seems to be working out okay so far.
Yeah. So, and you're so, I'm gonna have to go back to like, you're saying, I don't know the word Enneagram. How do you spell that? Just for, I don't know if others, maybe others already know this, but I want to
Yeah,
spell
it's
it out, make sure it's easy.
Enneagram. I think it's Enagram, I believe. And it's basically just like a comprehensive personality test.
Yeah.
So if you get the app, it's called Ennea app. And there's a premium version that costs like $5, probably the best $5 I've ever spent.
Uh-huh.
And it's helped me in a lot of ways in my life, not just business. Me and my wife did it together, and like she's starting to learn more about her personality. When you have the upgraded version of this app, you can actually go in and see where you have conflict areas with other personality types, where you have improvements with other personality types, like how you will work well together. And I do this with our staff too, like our managers for sure. Like we have to be really dialed in.
Yeah.
Both of my managers are more of a perfectionist personality. Same with my wife. Interesting. We definitely know where the conflict areas are, because I'm like, who cares? Let's just get it done, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, no, it's got to be perfect. We need a plan. And I'm just like, nope, no plan. There's tension there, but it's also good because it helps progress. And it's helped my marriage a ton. It's unbelievable how much like we just don't realize how other people think
Yep.
and how we think. It's been a huge part in progress in my life, I would say.
I love that. I'm so glad you shared this with me, because I absolutely want to try and do this, because obviously the road, the self-awareness is as a continuing road. You're constantly trying to develop and understand yourself, but then through understanding yourself, you understand others.
There's
And
more apps too, but that one I think is real basic. It doesn't get super complicated. It's a nice, easy way to learn, and it's a good tool.
yeah, and then for those of you I know that like they're like, I don't have time. I think it's very important to make the time to just, yes, it's like maybe how long does it take to do the test? I don't know, but
Half hour, maybe.
yeah,
So here's the
I
thing.
guess no more than an hour.
When you're doing those tests, like you have to really make sure you're not distracted. So what I would do is I'd perform better at nighttime. I'm not a morning person. So I would come home, I would sit, just chill for an hour. And then when I'm like feeling in my zone, I'll just sit down and think about stuff like that. And that's when you want to take that test, because you're going to be more like to your core, more focused.
Yeah,
So
giving
don't
like
take it
true
at the shop
answers.
or
Yeah,
something like that. You're never going to answer the way that you would really answer.
yeah,
And being truthful with it too is like not trying to lie to the personality test to make yourself look like somebody you're not.
yeah, exactly.
Be truthful with it, and then the app will give you suggestions and ways to improve and like how to get to a better place with your personality. It's a very powerful $5. Hopefully, it's still $5.
Yeah, even if it's not, it sounds like a very powerful tool that you can leverage to yourself. You can do it for people in the shop, but especially in your primary relationships, for those that are married and things like that, like just helping. I mean, that communication, because again, I know you mentioned communication is huge for your company. Same thing for ours. Number one important thing. And so, if you don't understand yourself and you don't understand how others communicate as well, no one communicates the same. And so you need to have that deeper level to this understanding. Some people are naturally gifted, where they just know, okay, that person understands it this way, and so this is how I need to communicate with them. There's a lot of people that are not aware enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Having an assistant in a sense is very helpful. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, and it helps you with your recruiting efforts too.
Mhm.
You can look for personalities that are going to complement you and the team. So
No.
that's something that we haven't dove into real deep. It takes time to get people to really just be willing to do that type of stuff. And so you have to be ready to dive into that path. right
No,
before you
definitely.
can really guide someone to do it.
I know you mentioned you're not a morning person. So yeah, whatever time of day that works for you. I recommend it's either morning or night. It's not going
Yeah,
to be in the middle of the day at lunchtime. It's still you regard it, you're in the middle of your almost work day. You're still distracted. So don't do it then. Do it when you're decompressed of some kind. I've started to make myself more a morning person. So I don't know if anyone's heard of Miracle Morning, but I've started doing that each place where you spend some time meditating, spend some time writing in a journal, doing like some exercise things like this. So there's basic elements each and every day, but it created this process for me where now like I have that time in the morning to
hmm
myself, start the day. So that's where I'll probably what I'll try to
that
do.
would be the perfect time to do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah. So I love what everything that you've shared today about culture and hiring and recruiting. I love this, like the whole process. But I think definitely this Enneagram thing really helps me understand almost you and how this started. I think this is the game changer point for a lot of people here. Like maybe it's not this app. Maybe this app just doesn't correlate with you. Like you don't like the feel of it, whatever it may be. Find something else though to help you start this journey of just like understanding a little bit of yourself, and then slowly but surely, I think that just will help.
Lots of books,
Yeah,
like self-help books. It's probably the number one industry in the world. The key is actually doing something with what you're learning too. So
exactly. You can't just
don't
read,
apply
read,
it.
read, and not do anything about it. Just like reading.
Yeah.
Even myself, I was a before I thought like self-help books. Why are those even in existence? I was like, I flipped through them before when I was younger, and I was like, this is pointless. Why would anybody read this?
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough of them. I need help all the time.
Yep. It's amazing. Once you open your eyes to actually receiving help and taking action with it, that's when progress happens.
Yep, absolutely, and be able to circling back. And it was about this talk today was about finding your purpose in business and helping other shop owners find that purpose. What better way to find a purpose than like understanding yourself and realize, okay, why am I even running a shop to begin with? It's okay to be a little bit selfish in terms of, yeah, is it for my own success, or is it really like the community is like it has been downtrodden, and this is my way of really helping the community, or whatever it may be for yourself. At least understanding that and reflecting on that will go a long way. Then your team will feel that, and they know if you're faking or not. And so it's
Oh
like
yeah.
if you're pretending like you're someone you're not, they're like, know that this guy's full of it. Like he says this and doesn't do this, and they're not going to recommend people to come work for you. That's not how it's going to work. Yeah, I love that.
It's been
So then I
interesting.
guess to wrap things up, for those of you, again, I appreciate everyone staying on this long and listening to us. Hopefully this has been an extreme value add to you. I know it has been for me, being able to have this opportunity with Kyle. I know this is your first time doing a podcast like this, but I really appreciate it. I think this has been a very message for people here today. But if you had maybe one go-to recommendation for any shop owner that's maybe not necessarily struggling with their team or struggling with their shop, or maybe they're having success, but what would that recommendation be for you to from you to them this year?
I would say surrounding yourself with people that want to go the same place you do and making sure you have a group of people that you can depend on when things are good and things are bad, like a support, whether that's a Facebook group, a local community group, just a group of like-minded people that you can lean on has been so beneficial for me and my family. Short of that, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
If I didn't have a group of people I could lean on in the tough times, we would not be even close to where we're at today. There's
yeah,
no question about that.
yeah,
So,
so yeah, definitely finding those people you can trust. You can't do it on your own.
100%.
Yes, I don't typically talk about religion on here at all, but I'm pretty religious. I'm no shame in saying that. My relationship with Heavenly Father is very, I try to work on that every single day. So if that's something that you are passionate about, I highly recommend doing that. But even if you don't, if you're not one that believes in a higher being, find the people here that can help. Like you are who you surround yourself with. Like again, you'll rise up to the occasion, or you'll drop down to whoever the mindset is of everyone else. So make sure you're just surrounded with people that'll make you better.
Be
So
in the right room. You don't
yeah,
ever want to be the smartest person in the room.
yeah, exactly. Kyle, thank you again so much for being with us today. For those of you that for those that maybe want to reach out to you personally and message you or call you or whatever it may be, what would be that best line of communication that they can reach you at?
You can shoot me a message on Facebook, or if you want, you can email me. So email is kyle@meadowsautomotive.com. And
Perfect.
happy to answer any questions or just bounce ideas off of whatever you want to do is reach out. That's cool with me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just type in Kyle Meadows in the search bar, and you should be able to find him. If you can't find him, you can message me, and I'll just send you the link to his profile. I don't know if there's 100,000 Kyle Meadows in the world or not,
I don't
but
know.
it's not that basic of a name. But I don't. If you're struggling to find him, you can message me here, and then I'll easily shoot you Kyle's information.
I'm on a lot of Facebook groups, so feel free to reach out. I'm an open book, so try to help you if I can or whatever. If you just need someone to talk to, I'm good for an open ear too.
Awesome. All right, Kyle. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thank you.